Initially, the Democratic Party wanted to censure Representative Ilhan Omar over statements that she had made in regard to the right-wing government of Israel. Now, again, her statements were specifically about Benjamin Netanyahu and his policies, which she finds to be problematic. And I'll give you an example of the latest statement that she made that has gotten her in trouble. Take a look.
Talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country.
So that started a firestorm within the Democratic Party. A number of Democrats, including staffers for Nancy Pelosi, were drafting a censure for Representative
Yeah, no,
Omar.
let me clarify.
Okay.
Censure is an extra layer here. It was a resolution to condemn first her, then they got pushback. So they're like, okay, just anti-Semitism in general, and now it is morphed, and we'll give you more details on how it morphed. But there's a twist also in Steve King should have been censured for his comments on how he doesn't see anything wrong with white supremacy, which is a whole different level. That's a nuclear level, right? And, you know, it turns out the Democrats stopped the censure. Clyburn said they had enough votes. They chose not to censure Steve King because they think that's extreme. I don't think that's extreme at all in his context. In this context, though, the first thing they were going to do was just a resolution.
Okay, so what is the update to this resolution? Well, it turns out that the resolution would be updated to include a nod to anti-Muslim bias. So this isn't only about anti-Semitism, and they are not planning, and this is, of course, based on a draft of the resolution. They are not planning on including Representative Omar's name in the resolution. It's just a resolution condemning anti-Semitism and anti-Muslim bias. House Majority Whip James Clyburn told reporters that the resolution should emphasize an anti-hate message. What does this mean? Right? What does this mean? Like, what are we doing? Are we playing games right now?
Yeah, they're definitely playing games.
This is ridiculous. Okay, so you're gonna waste resources, time and resources to put out a resolution and like vote on it. Are they gonna vote on a resolution?
Yeah, they're gonna vote.
Yeah, condemning anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Why do we need a resolution for that?
If you're not trying to intimidate Ilhan Omar, why are you doing a random resolution against anti-Semitism? Yeah, we all agree, of course. Who would not agree with being against anti-Semitism or Islamophobia? I know Republicans wouldn't, but all Democrats would. Even the most conservative Democrats would. The most progressive Democrats would. Everybody agrees. So what are you doing here? What you're doing is trying to intimidate Omar, okay?
Exactly.
But here's what happened behind the scenes, which is interesting. This is based on the reporting. I don't know anything more than the reporting does. Other people that are like-minded pushed back within the caucus meeting. And apparently there was so much shouting that Pelosi was frustrated and walked out. And including AOC, et cetera, said, no, this is crazy. I can't believe that you guys are going to target her. And then my understanding is the Congressional Black Caucus then was like, oh, right, Ilhan Omar is in the Congressional Black Caucus. And this seems like you're, picking her out when, by the way, there's 6 different Republicans who have, at a minimum, who said way worse on the issue of anti-Semitism. And now we're voting against Omar when we didn't even condemn those guys.
Yeah. So I want to get to that in just a second, right now, actually. So Democrats were leading this effort to pass this resolution initially against Representative Omar, and then they decided, okay, we're getting a lot of pushback, so maybe we take her name out. We also include anti-Muslim bias because she's Muslim, and a lot of this criticism against the attacks on Omar claim, hey, this seems like an Islamophobic attack because she's Muslim. People are piling on her when it comes to this issue. And so they're like, okay, fine, we'll include the anti-Muslim bias part in the resolution as well. But if you go back and you see the way that Democrats handled Steve King and his statements about white nationalism, it'll infuriate you because House Democratic leaders blocked an effort to censure Representative Steve King for racial comments referring the measure to the House Ethics Committee for further review because they had concerns that it might set a dangerous precedent for policing members' speech. Well, they were concerned, hey, if we do this to Representative King, then maybe Republicans will do this to us, right? But you don't have to worry about that, Democrats, because you'll do it to yourselves.
Yeah, it's
Right?
unreal. It's unreal. And there were people who were upset about that who were Democrats, like Bobby Rush, and he's like, what? He said he doesn't understand what's wrong with white supremacy and white nationalism. What else do we need to censure someone? And Clyburn's like, yes, but many years from now, and it's not just Clyburn, it's the Democratic leadership overall. Many years from now, if the Republicans ever regain the House, they may also censure us. I mean, how? So what?
To take action. House Democrats are poised to vote on a resolution broadly condemning anti-Semitism in response to Omar's recent comments, including her suggestion that supporters of Israel's government have, quote, an allegiance to a foreign country, a comment critics say plays into a long-standing attack that Jews cannot be considered loyal citizens of their home countries. The resolution does not call out Omar by name, who is Muslim, but Republicans are now threatening to pass a censure motion which would. Omar herself has been targeted by racist criticism, including a West Virginia protest linking her with the 9/11 terror attacks. Joining me now is Jennifer Palmieri, former White House Communications Director for the Obama administration and former Communications Director for Hillary Clinton's campaign, Washington Post opinion writer and MSNBC contributor Jonathan Capehart, and Kimberly Atkins, senior Washington News correspondent for WBUR, also an MSNBC contributor. Jen Palmieri, first to you. Are the Democrats in a bind on this? Here they have a freshman congresswoman. She is a minority, being a Muslim in Congress, and now she's made these comments, and they feel pressured to take some action.
I mean, if they were in a bind, being in a bind means that they weren't taking action. So I don't think that they find themselves in a bind because they are taking action to have a resolution to reaffirm that concern about anti-Semitism. And beyond this incident, there are you see a lot of examples of it in America today. I go back to the Tree of Life synagogue massacre. So there's a lot of reason for concern beyond Rep. Omar. But if she is a duly elected member of Congress who is sitting on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And if she has arguments against policy towards Israel, American policy towards Israel, she should voice that. What I think is where you get into trouble is when you start talking about people's motivations generally, and that's true in politics generally, very true here, and start talking about allegiances to other governments that has a history as anti-Semitism, but also it's the kind of trope that you hear said against Muslim Americans as well. So I understand why they're taking that action to affirm that kind of language is not suitable, and I think that you can have policy disagreements. It's when you get into these motivations and questioning allegiances that it becomes problematic.
Indeed. Now, she has support today from AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, tweeting today that one of the things that is hurtful about the extent to which reprimand is sought of Ilhan is that no one seeks this level of reprimand when members make statements about Latinx and other communities. During the shutdown, a GOP member yelled, "Go back to Puerto Rico" on the floor. Jonathan?
Yes.
She's got a point.
Well, yes, she does have a point. This is not to say that the controversy surrounding Congressman Omar is not legitimate, but there seems to be selective outrage. And when it's been coming from the Republican side of the aisle is mute. They don't hold their members accountable for anything.
Belatedly on Steve King. Much belatedly. Years too late.
Decades too late on Congressman Steve King. So I think we can, and I think Jen is absolutely right, that when you get into the motivations of people, that's where you get into trouble. And I think the other area where Congresswoman Omar gets into trouble is, remember, she's a freshman member of Congress. She is part of this class of activists that are making the transition from the streets to the inside, to the halls of power. And there's a completely different way of behavior, of ways of doing things. And what we're seeing now in real time and uncomfortably is she is learning, or at least I hope she's learning what she's going through and how she can still, change her behavior without changing how she thinks or what she believes.
And we saw that, Kimberly, just last week in the oversight hearing with Michael Cohen, when there was that clash with one of the freshman members against Mark Meadows, and realizing that there are congressional rules that you can actually be brought in front of the ethics committee if you attack another member.
Yes, with Rashida Tlaib.
A resolution rejecting anti-Semitism as hateful expressions of intolerance that are contradictory to the values that define the people of the United States. Now, though it doesn't mention her by name, the measure is seen in part as a rebuke of Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in response to her recent tweets questioning U.S. policy on Israel, especially this one answering fellow Democratic Nita Lowry. Our democracy is built on debate, Congresswoman. I should not be expected to have allegiance, pledge support to a foreign country in order to serve my country in Congress or serve on committee. Now, that remark, alleging, some say, the anti-Semitic charge of dual loyalty among Israel supporters, has sparked condemnation across the political spectrum, from liberal Democrats to, of course, President Trump. Well, for more, we are joined from Washington by Ariel Gold. She's the national co-director of Code Pink, Women for Peace. It's a group that